places where silence isn't empty. It's occupied. Places where nothing moves, nothing speaks, and yet something is always listening. Tonight's story follows a young man who takes a simple job, a quiet job. A night watchman in an old morgue scheduled for closure. No disturbances, no visitors, no reason to be afraid. At least, that's what he was told. But shortly after midnight, a bell begins to ring. Not loudly, not urgently, but with purpose. And each time it does, it points to one of the dead. Welcome to Short Ghost Stories, long after midnight. The Haunted Morgue. Thomas Carrow had never liked silence. Not the ordinary kind, the quiet of a late evening or a sleeping street, but the deeper kind. The kind that seemed to press in from all sides. The kind that made a man aware of his own breathing. The morgue possessed that silence. It stood at the edge of the city, scheduled for closure, its brick exterior darkened by damp winters and neglect. Most of the work had already been moved to a newer facility across town. Only a few bodies still passed through here. And even fewer people. That, Thomas had been told, was precisely why the job existed. Night watchman, the listing had said. Minimal duties, ideal for study. He needed both the money and the time. The man who greeted him on his first evening did not seem to believe in either. Mr. Garrick was tall, thin, and carried himself with the rigid composure of someone who had spent too long in the presence of the dead. His gaze lingered on Thomas just a moment too long, as if measuring him against something unspoken. "You will remain at the desk after midnight," Garrick said. "You will make your rounds once every hour. You will record anything irregular." Thomas nodded, already glancing past him into the corridor beyond. "And if I hear anything?" Thomas asked, almost casually. Garrick paused. It was subtle, but deliberate. "You are not here," he said slowly, "to question what you hear." Thomas gave a polite smile. Garrick did not return it. The first hour passed without incident. Thomas settled at the desk, books spread before him, the warm light of the lamp forming a small island in an otherwise sterile room. Beyond it, the corridor stretched long and silent, lined with metal drawers that reflected the faintest movement of light. Once, during his first round, he noticed one of the drawers slightly ajar. He pushed it closed. The metal slid smoothly into place with a quiet click. He thought nothing of it. By midnight, the building seemed to settle deeper into itself. The silence grew heavier, not louder, but more present. Thomas adjusted his notes, checked the time. 2:13 a.m. The sound did not begin all at once. At first, it was a faint metallic tremor somewhere within the walls, a vibration more felt than heard. Thomas did not look up. He turned a page, continued reading. Then it came again, clearer. A bell. He froze. It rang once, low, hollow, contained, as though the sound had no intention of leaving the corridor that held it. Thomas slowly raised his head. The silence that followed felt wrong. Not empty. Waiting. The bell rang again. Closer. Or perhaps simply clearer. He could not tell. There was no urgency to it, no frantic repetition, just a measured signal. Deliberate. He stood. For a moment he remained by the desk, listening, as if the building might correct itself. It did not. The bell rang a third time. Thomas reached for the lantern. The flame flickered, though no draft could be felt. He stepped into the corridor. The air was colder there, not enough to see, but enough to notice. The sound changed as he moved. It did not grow louder, it grew precise, as if he were not approaching it, but aligning with it. Halfway down the corridor, the bell stopped. Thomas halted. The silence rushed in immediately, thick and absolute. He stood there, lantern raised, waiting. Nothing. Then, a faint shift behind him. He turned sharply. The corridor stretched empty in both directions. And yet, for a moment he had the distinct impression something had moved just beyond the light. Not quickly, not fleeing, simply repositioning. The bell rang again. Close. He found the panel set into the wall. Dust lined its edges. The metal was worn, its label still faintly visible. Revival alert. Thomas stared at it. The bell rang once more. A small indicator trembled, then settled. He followed it, slowly. Drawer 3. The distance felt longer than it should have. Each step echoed faintly. Not ahead of him, but just behind. He stopped before the drawer, listened. Silence. His hand hovered. Then he pulled. The drawer slid open with a low, resistant whisper. Inside lay a body, still, pale, undisturbed. Thomas exhaled, and then he saw the hand. Not raised, not reaching, but not at rest. The wrist hovered slightly, the fingers drawn inward as though interrupted mid-motion. A thin cord was tied loosely around it. Thomas leaned closer. The lantern trembled. For a fraction of a second, he thought the fingers tightened. The bell rang. Not from the corridor, not from the panel, but from within the drawer itself. Thomas jerked back. The sound was immediate, intimate, contained. Then it stopped. The silence that followed felt deeper, occupied. Very slowly, he pushed the drawer closed. The hand disappeared. The cord vanished. The corridor fell still. But as he turned away, he could not shake the feeling that whatever had triggered the bell had not been mechanical. The following night, it happened again. 2:13 a.m. A different drawer, the same bell, the same silence, and each time the body lay still, yet never quite as he remembered it. Thomas began to search the records, old logs carefully written, spanning decades, and buried within them a single entry, a mistake, a body misidentified, a man who had awakened here. The system had been installed shortly after, a safeguard. Inside the panel, scratched into the metal, he found a note. If the bell rings, do not open immediately. On the third night, he saw the figure. It moved at the far end of the corridor, a silhouette, holding a lantern. The light it cast was warmer than his own, older. It did not look at him. It moved from drawer to drawer, pausing, counting. After that, the pattern deepened. The bell rang more often. The drawers shifted. The bodies changed in ways too subtle to name, yet impossible to ignore. The logbook no longer made sense. Numbers altered. Entries appeared that he did not remember writing. He began to understand. The figure was not guarding the dead. It was counting them, ensuring something remained correct. On the final night, the bell rang again. 2:13 a.m. Thomas turned to the panel. There was no indicator, no drawer, and yet the bell continued. He stepped into the corridor. The lantern light felt weaker now, the shadows deeper. The figure stood closer than before, between him and the rows of drawers, still holding its lantern, still unmoving. Thomas moved past it. He did not remember deciding to. The bell rang again, slow, deliberate. He reached the desk. The logbook lay open. The numbers, they were wrong. There was one too many, or one too few. He could not tell. And then he understood. The system did not track the dead. It tracked presence. And now, it included him. Morning came, gray, cold, and unremarkable. The corridors were silent, the drawers closed, everything in place. Thomas stood at the desk staring down at the open logbook. There was a new entry, written in careful, deliberate handwriting, not his own. He read it once, then again. And slowly, without quite realizing why, he reached for the pen. Well then, you've made it all the way to the end. Some listeners leave early. Some grow uneasy when the night grows too quiet. But you stayed. And if you enjoyed tonight's ghostly tale, feel free to like the video, share it with a fellow night wanderer, and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep the lantern burning and the stories coming. Thank you for listening. Until we meet again for more short ghost stories, long after midnight.